for a brief conversation will be one of the reporters down there at Culture News, Kimal King. Stay with us.
Culture Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Culture Radio.
Win $100,000 monthly with Sleepy Sanitary Pads. Sleepy Sanitary Pads are all natural and are made with cotton and bamboo fibers. It is dye and lotion free, hence no irritations or rashes. Sleepy Sanitary Pads are available in 2 sizes, ultra thin and thick. It is affordable and available nationwide. See press for details. Visit our Sleepy South America Facebook page or call us on 233-2473.
It is 13 hours 34 all across this beautiful country of Guyana. It has been an eventful Thursday, and it is time for Elections and COVID-19 Watch, where the guys will cover everything elections, everything COVID. This afternoon at the helm of the program, a senior journalist of Culture News, Mr. Leonard Gildarie, alongside his co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. And for a brief conversation from Culture News, Mr. Kimal King. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, dear Kevin Smith, and of course Raj and Joshua. Good afternoon to you guys in the studio. I want to say right away we're going to get into things. Good afternoon to my co-host there, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. And we have in our studio here this afternoon one of the up-and-coming rising stars of Culture News, no other than Kimal King. Would have been working very hard since that March, or let's say the March 2nd elections in Guyana. Haven't stopped working. So many others like him at Culture Radio, Culture News. So I want to say welcome to Kimal and all who would be joining us across this beautiful land of ours, and wherever else, across the Caribbean, from the U.S., Canada, Europe. Good day to you all. As usual, it is always a pleasure joining you. So we get right into it today. This morning, the U.S. Embassy would have held a press conference to tell us what was widely expected, some details about those visa revocations that was announced yesterday by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. And what we have here today, well, a lot was not said actually, because the embassy did not give much details, but we do happen to have some details which we are going to be discussing during the show. But we have with us Kimal King, who was part of that press conference, so we want to get right into things. I think present there at that press conference this morning was the U.S. Ambassador to Guyana, Sarah Ann Lynch, and she would have been fielding questions for about 20 minutes or so thereabouts from the media. And so, Kimal, welcome to the studio here at Culture Radio. What really transpired at that meeting? Did we come out of it much better in terms of information?
Hi, Mr. Gildarie, and hi, Dr. Mahadeo. The U.S. Ambassador was very tight-lipped this morning. What we do know from it is that the embassy will be notifying the persons who are facing sanctions that they will be facing sanctions. She had said during the interview that they would not notify these persons, that they would find out when they seek to travel, but then I received clarification from the public affairs officer via letter to Landis just now that the consular affairs section of the embassy will be reaching out to the persons who are facing sanctions. The ambassador was very tight-lipped about the categories of persons who are facing sanctions, the number of persons who are facing sanctions, and their identities. She explained that there are certain privacy laws that prohibit her from sharing such information. She also could not speak to what these sanctions would escalate into if the situation gets much worse, if the government continues to refuse to demit office. Of course, she's just relaying a decision that was made by Mr. Pompeo, the U.S. Secretary of State. Yeah.
Thank you very much, dear. And Yog, this was not totally unexpected. I would have been a little surprised myself. I thought there would have been some details, but I would have been more surprised. Normally, they're very, because of their laws that they have there, they don't give details. But it's a small country like Guyana, things get out, and there are ways that how you could find that out. And we do happen to have some details that are coming out now. And before I go further into that, Yog, you may have some questions on your own that you may want to ask Kimal King, and so go right ahead, sir, and welcome.
Well, not questions per se. Kimal, thank you for that update. I think, Kimal, going into that interview, you would have known us also that the embassies do not, as a matter of practice, reveal the names. In terms of my question would more be towards the questions that media themselves might have asked of the ambassador, Kimal, and not you per se, but in terms of the media grouping. Has there been pointed questions in terms of taking a side, or has more of the questions been towards just seeking news coverage, getting news coverage?
Okay, so some of the questions that were asked were about whether the U.S. recognizes Dr. Irfan Ali as president-elect. And in response to that, the ambassador said that they will wait for a declaration. However, she noted that there have been about 7 different results that have been produced by the Elections Commission, and underscored that the result that the U.S. government is throwing its weight behind is the legitimate and credible count as the national recount. And we know that that count shows the PPP to have gained the most votes in the elections. There was a journalist who pointed to the ambassador questions about electoral fraud and irregularities, and whether in the face of electoral fraud, the U.S. holds the fullest confidence in the recount of votes. And in response to that, the ambassador pointed to the CARICOM report and reminded something that the president, Mr. Granger, has said, that CARICOM is the most legitimate interlocutor. That journalist had pointed the question to say that GCOM has certified that there was electoral fraud. But the ambassador pointed to the report from the CARICOM team, which said that even though it noted irregularities and allegations of electoral fraud, that it had an unshakable belief that the elections were credible, that the recount results are completely acceptable, and that they should form the basis of a declaration.
Great. And Kimal, just to push a little bit more on that, because from a media perspective, I think more or less people are aware that, a lot of these court cases would have been better placed as an election petition. So I am aware that the diplomatic community has always referred to the results of the recount, not just the results of these elections, but the results of the recount. Has there been anything mentioned of that, given this current court case?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, the current court case is where the applicant is deflecting back to the previous declaration, meaning that Mingo's declaration should be part thereof.
Yeah.
Was any distinction made in this press release today to say that the ball has shifted again or anything like that, or no mention was made to any particular type of declaration?
Well, I believe that in endorsing the CARICOM report, the
great.
ambassador would have made it explicit that it's the recount results that they're
Perfect.
throwing their weight behind.
Perfect. Yes, that's true. That's true. Thank you, Kimal.
Thank you very much for that. And so, do we have any ideas? I think questions were also posed to the ambassador about what is next in terms of escalations, and I think you did mention something on that. But could we talk a little about that?
We can only speculate at this moment, and the U.S. ambassador, she purposely deflected two questions about that because she's not the one making the decisions here. And so she said that she can only speak based on the decision that Mr. Pompeo has already made. And so she cannot speak to escalating sanctions or sanctions on the oil sector per se.
Mm-hmm. And Yog, I think that's as much because obviously no details. They're going to remain tight-lipped. I think they've made it clear now. They've changed their stance. And I'm not sure if there's anything. I understand the politician, I think it was Joseph Harmon, was on a particular forum. And immediately after that, there seems to have been a shift. I'm not sure if there is a relation between that statement by Mr. Joseph Harmon and what the embassy would have come out. But initially, the embassy, based on the reports that we were getting, the embassy would have said that, look, we are going to notify them whenever they turn up either for the visas or maybe ready to travel. But here, suddenly, within minutes after that statement by Mr. Harmon, the embassy has taken a shift. It's a major shift because it's moving from, okay, we tell you when you're ready, from we will call you and probably tell you. So there's a major shift there. And I think that should be significant. We should take note of that. So, Yog, I think that's enough, Kimal. As this story develops, obviously, we want to hear from you again. Bottom line is that the embassy this morning did not go into full details. In fact, they were very sparse in information with regards to who it is. But we are developing some information based on our sources there, which we will be discussing as the program gets on its way. So thank you very much, Kimal. And if there's anything, obviously we want you back in the studio here, and happen to have a pleasant day, sir.
Thank you. The other thing that the ambassador had wanted to impart during the press conference was the U.S. government's confidence in the ability of the GCOM chair, Justice Claudette Singh, to deliver a declaration and carry out her job with integrity. And that was said in light of the attacks that have been made on the GCOM chair.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said that the chair has shown years of good jurisprudence, and so that they will continue to defend her honor.
Thank you very much, and that is important.
Leonard, if I may, Kimal, sorry, I forgot. Look, Guyana's non-democratic trajectory is dangerous for its citizens and for the hemisphere as a whole. Now, was there any question with regards to sovereignty? Because as we know, one stakeholder in this process claims that nobody should interfere, going back to Harmon's statement this morning too.
Not that I remember at the time. I think the U.S. ambassador had addressed the criticisms that are being made against the U.S. About foreign interference back in April, when she had pointed to Guyana also exercising its commitment to defend democracy in the hemisphere, when Guyana stood with its sister states in this region to declare that the Maduro government, that it would not recognize it, the legitimacy of that government. So I think the issue of sovereignty and foreign interference has already been put on the back burner, because these, both in the CARICOM and in the Americas region, they have explained that Guyana had signed on to the Inter-American Democratic Charter and the Charter of Civil Society, both which require countries in the hemisphere to seek after good democracy in
Right.
the region.
Great. Thank you.
Interesting. Thank you very much. So they're one of our good reporters there, Kimal King. Kimal, thank you very much, sir. And we will be touching base with you a little later to see whether there's any updates on this.
Yes, good afternoon.
Thank you very much. So, as you are now joining us, it is July the 16th, 2020 here in Guyana. It would have been more than 100. Let me just make sure that I get it. I've been keeping a running count, you know. It is 36 days, Yog. It's 136 days according to my count. So it has been 136 days since the March 2nd elections, and that is more, and it's almost going on to 3.5 months now since the election, 4.5 months rather. So we should be paying attention to that. But let's get right into the front page of Kaichur because it is saying a lot here. Granger in charge of conspiracy to rig elections, and the international community knows it. This is coming from the People's Progressive Party Civic, and they of course have been handed the lead based on the recount. The U.S. government tells Granger, get out, as sanctions hit top officials' financiers. This is the lead headline in Kaichur News. No surprises there, because this is something that has not happened before in Guyana, and it is coming just after the elections, and which the results, there has not been a swearing of a president and neither government. Demonic clique engaged in vile attempts to hijack the country. CARICOM chair, and this is no other than Ralph Gonsalves, who happened to also be the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. These self-same vile and vulgar persons haven't failed in their attempts to curse and bully Prime Minister Mia Mottley and former Prime Minister of Barbados Owen Arthur and me have now turned their demonic attention to senior staff members of CARICOM and other reputable persons in Guyana and the Caribbean community. We must continue fearlessly to do the right thing. The evil of the anti-democratic brigands must not be allowed any space to triumph, and that's coming from Mr. Gonsalves. We go down, and this is very, very significant. Yog, we'll have to have a discussion. We did talk about it yesterday, but when you have the CARICOM chair, another regional leader, the U.S. Embassy, everybody piling it on, and everybody is wrong, including you, me, all the media in Guyana, then something is wrong somewhere along the way. We are all wrong. That is the story that's being told. Completion of 5 million COVID-19 hospital postponed. Every tool must be used to hold accountable those who undermine democracy. This is the Canadian government yesterday would have been saying that. The UK also working to sanction top coalition officials. This is coming from sources within the United Kingdom. There's been no official statement coming from the United Kingdom as yet, but sources are saying that. And I think the big one yesterday, which surprised a lot of people, is our neighbor Brazil, one of the biggest country, more developed country in the world, that we have always had a very close relationship with. Brazil throws weight behind CARICOM and the recount results. And if you read that statement, it is very, very, very serious in terms of what the Brazilian government would have said. They announced, and very quickly, before I hand it over to Dr. Yog Mahadeo, the Brazilian government yesterday announced that it has been closely following the developments in Guyana's general and regional election and is ready to see a declaration made on the basis of the results of the national recount. In so doing, Brazil endorsed the findings of CARICOM in line with the calls of the United States of America, Britain, Canada, Norway, St. Vincent and Grenadines, Barbados, the OAS, the Commonwealth, the Carter Center, and the European Union. This is the first country in the continent of South America to have spoken out on Guyana's protracted, contentious 2020 electoral process. Brazil stated yesterday that delays to the conclusion of the electoral process pose a serious threat to stability to Guyana and a departure from the undemocratic commitments that the country must observe in the regional and hemispheric context. Guyana signed on to the regional charters which require to maintain the highest democratic principle. However, delays in the conclusion of the democratic process for 4.5 months are owed to multiple sustained attempts to rig the elections. in favor of the APNO FC. The Brazilian government calls on Guyana political forces to respect the popular will emanating from the elections in line with a recent sentence of the Caribbean Court of Justice in order to guarantee the prompt official announcement of the country's new representative. This is all coming from Brazil. Very, very strong words from a neighbor that is coming there. So Yog, we are seeing every day we've been talking about it. The pressure continues to pile up on GCOM, on the coalition, for not to have any deviation, but to respect the recount process. And something has been coming out. I think our listeners and our viewers on Facebook, on YouTube, and of course tuning in, they would have made the point that it was President David Granger who insisted that he was the one who called Mia Motley as a CARICOM chair to arrange for this recount, for her to intervene as the CARICOM head for a recount, and that is what was said. I think it was reported too. So for the recount now not to be recognized officially, I think they're saying this flies in the face of the credibility of David Granger, who yesterday on his 75th birthday would have received that bad news from the U.S. that several persons would be handed sanctions. And as we on the issue of sanctions, which is the biggest news of the day, based on sources that we're hearing, and Yog, I know that you would have had your sources developing your information as well, based on sources of close to Culture News and people that we would trust with giving us those kind of information. There's a list that involves more than 40 persons. We were told yesterday it was 17, but there's more than 40, including lawyers, including persons from the cabinet of the David Granger administration, the cabinet that was there. And it's starting with David Granger at the top. Keith Lowenfield is in that, we were told. There's also some businessmen, Brian Tiwari, we were told on that. And then there's also at least 2 lawyers that is featuring very prominently on that list. I think Rupert Rupnarai name, Waldo Lawrence, Joseph Harmon, and a couple of others we were also told is on that. So it is all happening here today. Over to you, Yog Mahadeo.
Thank you, Leonard. Yes, indeed. Some names have been bandied around, and remember, remember that the consulate, none of the consulates are going, none of the members there, like the ambassador said, are going to release what names are under their purview. What we do know is that a number of groups and a number of persons would have created petitions, created a number of things to identify cases where a lot of these officials would have gone back on their word. You see, Leonard, we got to remember a couple of things here. So let's take Mr. Granger, for example. On day 1, he would have said X. On day 2, he said Y. On day 3, he went minus ABC. So that the shifting positions continue to create a problem with the elections. But beyond this, if you listen to Rod Gonzalez's 15 minutes radio interview, you would see that the leaders are concerned that we can descend into mayhem. You look at the attitude, you look at the people who were carrying that coffin a couple of days ago, it was chilling. You look at the arson that has started in a couple of places in the country, it's chilling. So the international community is well aware that because of the disingenuous or the absolute lies of the politicians here, they are causing citizens to take actions in their own hands that is not good for the sake of the country. So, Leonard, it is against that kind of backdrop, backdrop also for human rights issue, backdrop also for, look, if you're going to steal an elections in Guyana, then you cannot be tolerated in other democracies. Now, what I do know is as of this morning, If you look at the UK Guardian, the Guardian newspaper from the UK, you would see that in that newspaper it's saying that the UK is now under pressure to join the US to impose sanctions on Guyana. Now, you and I know, and we have said on this program before, that some of this sanction would have already started in a soft way because funding for certain projects have grounded to a halt. But around the world, the headlines are there. Now, go back to Ralph Gonzalez's statement. He said that, look, the nature of whatever CARICOM can do will have to be voted at CARICOM heads meeting. And he has clearly said then that that will be one of the most, if not the agenda of the upcoming meeting. I don't know when that meeting will be. But look, Leonard, none of the leaders, not a single one, has taken up a call for or on behalf of the PNC. Not a single international or regional leader has spoken up to defend what APNU AFC is doing. They have all called for an end to this delay. They all know what is happening there. And as Kimal King would have disclosed earlier, up to this morning, the U.S. ambassador would have referred to the CARICOM report. And that is the CARICOM report that would have emanated out of the recount process. So back to your point about sanctions, indeed, there would have been a number of petitions. There would have been disclosure of a couple names that would have arisen out of those petitions and out of those discussions, pointing to people who would have been involved at what point in the process. And as the U.S. ambassador said, they would know by being directly informed, or for those who don't have a visa when they go to apply. So I presume a couple of them might be scared to apply, and this is why they're going to say, give me the date when to give it back and stuff like that. So, Leonard, persons can ridicule it all they want. I would like to repeat something I said yesterday. When sanctions are imposed upon, individual sanctions that is, individual sanctions are imposed upon any of our Guyanese citizens, it is a shame for all of our Guyanese citizens. It is a shame for the entire Guyana. Nobody's happy that we have to come to this stage. But many people feel that unless it can come to this stage, those who are guilty of perpetrating such gross injustice upon this country will not step aside, will not allow things to happen. And I'm pleased to also know that Winston Rogers, who we know as Aussie Rogers, he is staging a one-man protest at the Philadelphia Center there, where Mike Pompeo is delivering a speech and thanking Pompeo for taking action against Guyana and calling for even more action. Now, interesting, I'll say this finally, interesting to note that the U.S. ambassador also spoke well of the chairman and says, so a lot of people still believe that the buck will stop with her, not meaning no difference there in terms of the statement. But a lot of people feel that ultimately it will be with her, the decision is with her, and we got to give her that space.
Thank you very much for that, Yog. And as we speak here today, there's some very sad news too. In addition to the loss of one of our well-known artists and who would have done so many works that are going to live on with us forever, I think it is. We also would be hearing that there is a 19th death. Yesterday we recorded a 36-year-old man would have died at the Georgetown Public Hospital. And the media is complaining also that since, and this is coming from Fariza Hanif, one of the reporters, she's saying that Guyana, since Guyana first recorded the COVID-19 death on March 11th, the public health minister and other health officials held one press conference in late March. The other briefings were done virtually by the Prime Minister, and this stopped after Harman took control of the task force. The daily update, which was supposed to be done every day at 12 noon, does not provide a medium for media to ask questions, and the update is now being done after 5 p.m., and reporters have to pull teeth to find out whether it will be aired at all. The health minister does not answer her phone. She does not address the media in weeks. Calls to the other health officials goes unanswered. The PRO never knows anything. A COVID-19 hospital is being built. Nobody knows how much money is being spent, how the contract was awarded, and the details surrounding the deals. So that this is also happening. So condolences to the 19 person who would have been there, who would have died. This is something that we want to do without. So let us see what happens from there. So Yog, that is coming out as far as COVID-19. Yesterday, on air, I allowed my phone number to go, and then I realized that there were so many people. It is totally ridiculous how many persons have been asking for help, Yog. It means that we have a situation that is developing, although the political situation has overtaken everything else. There's a very real happening across this beautiful land of ours that's not being addressed. A man called me from Parfait this morning. He says he is visually impaired. And hear the story with that. He has applied to the Ministry of Social Protection weeks now, and they have announced that they're helping persons with disabilities and so on. He has not received anything. He gets I think some public assistance, but he has not heard, and he says, I really need you to look into it. So I'm going to have to probably call maybe the Ministry of Social Protection and see what help we could get. But Yog, while we're talking here, the desperation that is out there is really getting to the people. You could hear it in the voice. I've been receiving a lot of calls, and you've been on the ground too, getting from communities to community, trying to help in your own little way with our foundations. But it is getting beyond the point where there's only so much that we could do. Very, very difficult for the people of Guyana. They're really struggling.
Correct, indeed, Leonard. And what is even worse is that, people don't see any help coming soon. I mean, as a country, where do we go? What can we promise our people? The politicians are beyond reproof or beyond reproach, and they seem to be heartless. So absolutely steeply mired into their preservation of power that the life of our people is going, they're unbothered by it. So it is indeed worrying. And Leonard, what is even worse is that not knowing where the end is, not knowing when we can turn this around, also creates a sense of desperation or helplessness. So yes, there are quite a handful of groups that would be helping in whatever way they can. But at the end of the day, you can help for this week. What happens next week? You can help next week. What happens the other week? There are so many families in this country that needs help. How do we go about doing this, Leonard? It's a question that we don't know. We help as much as we can, and it's a sad state of affairs. And Leonard, on that note, I mean, I'm sorry to change topic a little bit, but do you know, and viewers and listeners, please listen to this. Guyana government could have generated $4.4 billion, $4.4 billion US dollars, in oil revenues by 2020 from the Pariah project, right? However, Leonard, a 6-month delay, we're already in month 4, right? Your free cash flow would drop to 2.6 billion. You're losing half of the money, and with a 12-month delay, you're losing 2/3. We are in some deep, dire crisis, Leonard. The longer this thing protracts, not only are our immediate livelihood put on the back burner by the politicians, but the livelihood of our future, of our children, of our future, 2028, 2030, 2040, because of the poor handling of the current situation is going to affect us in the future. And you're talking about billions, not a couple of $100,000, billions of dollars.
And you're talking about that. I'm not sure people start getting it. They're getting this whole situation as to how dire it is. And I'm not sure they understand that any government that is going to go in there, they would need literally a miracle. There's going to have to be some belt tightening measures that we'd have to take to pull us out of this deep hole that we've dug ourselves into. And I think there's so much. If you ask persons, what are you fighting for? Why do you want a political party that goes in there? I think you're going to have a sad state, some very worrying answers coming out. And this is not on one side of the fence. I'm talking both sides. Everybody is backing a political party or a coalition because traditionally that has been the thing to do. The family did it or so on. But nobody's really paying attention to the big issues. Where is the money going to come from? How do we move this country on? How do we raise pensions? How do we raise the minimum wage? How do we put as a safety net, the social safety net for pensioners and so on? And I always said it. I'm getting down in age. I think there's something, maybe if you don't have a lot of money, your salaries are not big. You would start worrying if you were not a business person, that you depend on, maybe you're looking towards NIS and your pension. Many persons over the year would have been doing a lot of self-employed and never paid NIS and so on. And if you're looking towards getting something, if your family doesn't help you, you'd want that safety net. This is a reality. And we have thousands and thousands of Guyanese who have not fallen under that safety net, that the little that you're going to get from NIS, and maybe you get a little public assistance or so, it's never going to be enough. My light bill alone per month is going to be probably the equivalent of what you get in the from public assistance and so on. And if we get this right, the oil money is supposed to be put in something in your pocket. If you don't have a government there, and what Yoga said there is really, really tough news to even process in the mind, that it's very shocking that in 6 months of not doing anything, that we could lose half of the revenues that is going to come from just one phase of the oil project that Exxon has embarked on there. And this is just one phase of it, I think the Payara, right? So these are things that we have to pay attention to. Yog, I don't know how else to say it except that when we see the response today to threats of sanction, I'd say threats, while it has been handed down, I think there's still that window of opportunity that exists for the politicians to do the right thing. And I'm talking here about the coalition, I'm talking about GCOM officials, I'm talking about Keith Lowenfield and the others, even some of the commissioners within GCOM. It is not too late to do the right thing, or else you go down in history. This morning I clashed. Well, I didn't really clash. I didn't set about that. There is a commissioner that sits on a constitution body. I think it's either child rights or something. And I'm not going to call her name, but she was there cursing up and behaving at a rate that I don't think that is befitting of a commissioner that is supposed to represent the people. It doesn't go with the high office that such commissions, when you sit in commissions, whether it's the Ethnic Relations Commission, the Public Utilities Commission, or the Public Procurement Commissions. These things are what you aspire. You aspire to be there to represent the people of Guyana, to make sure that the policies are there and so on. And she's there behaving, let them bring it on and things like that. So I asked her if that is a way for you to behave. And the woman started cussing me out. I ended up blocking her. And I'm not going to come down. Michelle Obama said it. If when they go low, you go high. Let us go high. Because all we could say to you people, we're not here to curse out. Yog Mahadeo and I did not sit down here without pay at Culture News for the last 4 months to back a political party. We've made it very clear, and he could speak for himself, that this is not anything to do with politics for us. This has, in terms of a political party that we back in, it has to do with our country and what is good for this country, what should be right, what should be in keeping with the law. If you don't have law, you're going to have chaos. It's very, very simple as that. So, Yog, I think I talked a little too much, but it is something that bothers me every day. I wonder, I hurt for my country people. I really hurt for the ladies that have been calling me. Ma'am, I've heard you people. I thank you very much for calling us. We're going to try to see what we could do. But there is a need, an urgent need for the authorities. You're not doing enough. You're fighting too much. Here it is, a report is complaining that you have a COVID task force being headed by the Prime Minister, none other than Moses Nagamutu, and you have not held a press conference or since several months now. And that's not good enough, but you're collecting a fat salary and you put yourself or you've been placed there to represent the people of Guyana. Get it right, and maybe you could come after me, whatever you dig out of the closet, God bless you with that. But it is the people talking to you because you are a public servant, whether you like it or not, a representative of the people, and you're supposed to serve. Your job is to serve. Over, Yog.
Indeed, Leonard. But it speaks to everything that we have discussed on this program for the past 100-odd days. Look, there are a number of persons across the Guyanese spectrum that holds political office. The March 2nd elections are long gone, 136 days ago. And these persons, I believe, I wish to, and I'm going to get the names now because it's important for us to know who are the persons that would have been appointed to various boards, various state boards. And, Leonard, these persons know what is happening in these elections, and yet they accepted these appointments. So now we have to look at who are these persons, how much they care about Guyana, and I would really like to know who are the board, who would comprise the board of directors of Gaisuku that allowed Gaisuku to go down the drain, as it were. Who were the board of directors for Gaisuku when the government decided to close Gaisuku down the way it did? Who are the board of directors for GPL? Who are the board of directors for NISIL? Who are the board of directors for the privatization unit? Who are the members of the board? Who are the members of the board for many of these entities? Leonard, I would personally like to be educated as to who these persons are that have been appointed to various boards and various commissions, and are continuing to draw down on their stipend, draw down on salaries, draw down on whatever it is that they're getting, while the politicians out on the street, and I say this with respect to a lot of the politicians, Leonard. Look, there are leaders, local leaders, I want to call them. There are local leaders across the various communities that would wish they could help their people more. There are local leaders at the NDCs that wants to help their people more, but they don't have the wherewithal to help the people, Leonard. They don't have the money to help the people. They don't have the central directive to help the people. And guess what? In the meanwhile, I want to know whether the board of directors at GPL continue to earn their stipend, whether the board at Gaisuku continue to earn a stipend when they went to the ministry, when they went to the government and said they don't have money to pay the workers. I would like to know whether the board of the privatization unit and the board of all of these places, Leonard, these are serious questions. These are analytical things that we need to discuss to see how much everybody is contributing either to the state of chaos or to a state where we can help everybody.
Thank you very much. And Yog, do you know that we have started, before we go that, there's a major breaking news here, Yog, and this is something I'm not sure whether it's come to your attention, but we're learning now that Owen Arthur, the Prime Minister of Barbados, former Prime Minister of Barbados, who would have made statements about Guyana, in fact was a guest on our program here, Elections Watch. Last evening, he suffered a heart attack. He is in the ICU and is stable, but he'll have to undergo surgery. He has been an outstanding champion for democracy in Guyana, and this is coming from a couple of his colleagues here. But Owen Arthur, we pray for you, sir, that you're one of the Caribbean leaders who have led from the forefront. So we pray for you here. Sorry,
Yeah.
but this is really bad news at this point in time.
Indeed, Leonard, I gather, and thanks for doing that, because yes, indeed, Mr. Owen Arthur would have been in the ICU. I gather from news we're getting. Excuse me. Let me thank our various persons, and thank you to a distinguished gentleman who was, shared such information with us. That while Mr. Owen Arthur, former Prime Minister, would have been under some severe difficulties, health difficulties, he is stable. And so he, undeniably, Leonard, some of these gentlemen, they are champions of democracy. They speak not just for Guyana, they still have this dream that we can become a region, that we can have integration that can see everybody move ahead. So, hats off to you, Sir Owen Arthur, and please know that we are praying with you, for your good health, sir, and quick recovery to you on behalf of us all here in Guyana.
Yes, thank you very much. And so you're right, Yoga. Roger Winston OC. This is OC Rogers as we know him. And he is coming there, what you would have mentioned a little earlier there, live from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, USA, where Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is delivering a speech. He has what do you call it, a placard that's on the ground here. Thank you, Mike Pompeo, on behalf of the Guyanese grateful nation. In behalf of Guyana, a grateful nation. So that's coming out there. So he's over there at the moment. And so, Yog, what we have here now, let's do a little recap. This morning, Guyana was waiting expectantly to hear about this news of visa revocations. The U.S. Embassy, in keeping with its rules and regulations, has made it very, very clear that it cannot name those persons. However, whenever they turn up to travel or so, or maybe to renew, they would be told. Of course, that has since changed. They've made a clarification. They said, they are going to notify, they will be notifying the persons, the affected persons. And this would have come, we're not sure whether it has any relations, shortly after Joseph Harmon, who happens to be the CEO of the National Task Force on COVID-19 and also a lead person within the coalition, would have reportedly made statements on a live broadcast that maybe the U.S. was bluffing. At least that's a report that's coming. So they would have, the U.S. Embassy would have clarified that it is indeed going to now notify the persons affected that their visas have been revoked. And so we will be developing that story as it goes. What we do know so far, based on our good sources, is that President David Granger is leading a list of over 40 persons that included a senior member of his cabinet, the cabinet that he would have had prior to elections. I'm not sure what they're calling it now. And among those names would be Moses Nagamutu. There would be a number of lawyers. There would be names like Cathy Hughes. There would be persons like Jaipal Sharma. And it goes on and on. All the senior members within the coalition. We are trying to get you those names. And at least one financier, BK Tiwari, Brian Tiwari, we have gotten from our sources that he was one of them. He and his family would have been affected also by the decision taken by the United States government at this point in time. We know also, based on what we saw and the statements that are coming out from Canada, Canada is also working, and they said they're prepared to take every tools that's available at their disposal to ensure that there is not a deviation, that there is a government that is formed from a democratic process, which is the recount results that has been recognized by CARICOM and the rest of the world as the official figures. And those figures have clearly put the People's Progressive Party, Civic, in the driver's seat when it comes to be forming the next government in Guyana. So it's 233,000 to about 217,000 that the coalition would have got, 230,000 for the People's Progressive Party. And so that puts the People's Progressive Party ahead based on the recount figures. That's what we have so far. Yog, before we head to maybe the lines, is there anything else that we would have missed? Because we are continuing the discussion here as to not only the stance, foreign policy stance taken by a number of countries, the region, as well as our neighbor Brazil, but we are also looking at the court case, which is going to continue tomorrow. That very big court case that likely, if it's not likely going to stop here, let's assume that this court tosses it out, we could expect to see it go into the Court of Appeal and maybe even end up back at the Caribbean Court of Justice. What we were told yesterday, last evening in room 592 Yog, should be instructional, is that there's nothing stopping the Court of Appeal from hearing the matter. They're not going to throw it out just like that. They would have to determine the merits of the case and probably make a ruling. So time wasting, as we say, time wasting, time being wasted.
Correct. Correct, Leonard. Time being wasted, time going by while people are out there needing some help and needing direction in their life. Let me also say that the changing of the guard would have transpired, would have taken place in Suriname, our neighboring country, Suriname.
Yes.
Changing of the guard would have taken place there. And so congratulations to the new president of Suriname, Mr. Chan Santoki. And Leonard, while Suriname will not make any statements and Venezuela will not make any statements with regards to Guyana political situation, just because we know there are border issues. So there are greater issues at play here. And so they don't want to come out as having anything to say with our political situation. But one must remember, what you read earlier is so important in terms of Brazil's statement.
That's a big one.
Don't underestimate the geopolitical play. Don't underestimate the politics here in the South American continent, the largest country, largest democracy. Remember, Brazil has undergone its own upheavals in recent years, Leonard. And notwithstanding its own upheavals in recent years, Brazil has found it necessary to make a statement about the political situation in Guyana. And that is not to be taken lightly at all. This is a neighbor. We have, I think, the longest stretch of border with them, don't we?
Yes.
Suriname, Guyana, French Guyana, we all share borders with Brazil. That is the humongous size of Brazil. Venezuela as well, right? So that in terms of the geopolitics at play now, it is stark. It is a stark reminder of where we are from a Guyana perspective, and we must not take these things lightly.
No, and you got to understand too, we have a very big or very close relationship with Brazil. We have a lot of Brazilians who work in Guyana in the mining areas. We have a big trade going on with Brazil. In fact, there is a special trade agreement that is in place that we could trade some of its goods, or there's a long list of goods, building materials, and so on that we could trade with them. That does not attract any tariffs under the special arrangement that we would have. That's because of our close relationship with Brazil. And when you see them coming out and say something like that, it means that they're extremely worried. CARICOM is extremely worried. I think it was pointed out several times right here on this show here and in room 592 about how worried CARICOM would be over the repercussions of the situation in Guyana. Guyana being a founding member of the CARICOM arrangements also is the home where the headquarters of CARICOM is. So when you look at all of that and what this might likely mean, Trinidad is set to have elections in another coming weeks. They have a similar political situation to Guyana. They also have, in terms of the ethnic tensions, and so they would have. So the last thing that Trinidad would want to write is a spillover into their place, that you see Guyana is doing that well, let us probably see whether we could get away with it. CARICOM would be very, very worried with that. So it's not something that any region, and especially if there's a body that where your headquarters is located, that they should be unstable, like what has happened in Guyana. So these are things that we have to pay very, very close attention. We would never be, it would never be a good thing for us as good people to look at the world and say that we could exist in a vacuum, that we should have no connection, because, like Yog would have said many times, and of course the others who would be more versed in that, that where are you going to sell your oil to when they decide to block a market? If you decide to eject Exxon, which is something that could very well happen, that they could think about, who's going to buy oil, where the vessels going to come from, where you're going to sell your sugar, where are you going to bring your clothes in? Because you can bring in television, you can bring in maybe a video game if you want it, you can be able to shop on Amazon. Maybe you'd have to go to Alibaba, which is in China, Chinese owned. So I'm not sure how this all going to work out. So when you open your mouth as a people, when we talk as a people about these things here, we should be very much aware of what it really means. That you would not be able to probably have a plane that is going to fly here and then fly some other place. All these are restrictions that could very well happen. So, Yog, in the meantime, while we doing that, we are
Sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Yog.
Yeah, don't forget that at the same time, going to what you just said, Leonard, that at the same time, one got to take note of relationships, marketing, long-term strategies. Because yes, Leonard, if we're going to get economic sanctions, there are a couple of things. A lot of people have benefited from their brothers and sisters and family members sending monies from overseas. All of that will have to stop. A lot of persons would have benefited. So ultimately, we are looking, and interestingly, ladies and gentlemen, I shared this morning a video of David Granger in 2015 talking about sanctions and how sanctions is going to affect everybody, and identifying that it is the top political players that must be sanctioned. In 2015, David Granger said that. And so, Leonard, persons should look at it and remember this is what happened. I also shared another feed where in 2015, the AFC had picketed the U.S. Embassy, calling on the U.S. Embassy to impose sanctions on the then PPP government, 2014, or yes, I think early 2015. So it is important that we look at this and look at who had been saying what then, look at the hypocrisy in place, and then say, you know what, we need to really take things in perspective. Because, Leonard, the other thing, quickly going back to what you said about people unable to do business, guess what? Everybody's, APNU AFC, for example, they have been screaming down the United States and say, you can't do us anything, and you can't do us this, and you can't do us that. But guess what? They're using an internet from a telephone company from the United States. They're using Facebook, which is United States based. They're using everything from United States based. And so why don't they chuck it all in? And in addition, if they really don't care about visas and don't care about anything, as we said yesterday, just chuck it in, give it up.
I don't know, but it is going to be stop living, let's go plant a farm, disconnect all the internet and everything, because everything is linked. So yoga, we go straight back to the newspaper. This is a story. I was paying very close attention to this gentleman that you spoke about last night. If you don't know your history, if you're not paying close attention to our people here, we might very well connect to somebody who's very well known, Will Smith in the U.S. or so on, and what is happening with he and his wife. But we're not paying attention. Leading artist and anthropologist George Simon dies. You ask 80% of Guyana, and they're going to tell you who is George Simon. And I think last night I learned so much when you were talking. You come down the airport escalator, the CGIA, and you're going to see some work of arts that is there for George Simon, somebody who's made tremendous, significant input into the art world of Guyana in terms of the history and so many other things, and he's captured it. He's been like an icon, so many, not only in the indigenous people communities, but as somebody who has been a good person, a good human being to so many others, an example, a role model. And so to the families and friends, this is something that we dearly would have lost a person who would have represented Guyana in a very, very big way. And there's a beautiful story too, right in Kaiser News, that had me looking again, and says our people are beautiful people. Girl 7 found sleeping on city bench, rescued, and somebody would have passed and see this little girl sleeping, and then they saw somebody who looked a little mentally unstrung was trying to approach the girl, and he stood around. He called the authorities, and they did not answer. And then he put it on Facebook, and then the Women Miners Association came and they rescued the girl. And there was a story there that they walked from Wales, because they have a situation there, to Georgetown to find something to eat. And her mom left her there to go buy cigarettes. That's what the story says. So it's a very sad story, but let's hope that the authorities have looked after that family there, and they are paying attention. So when you have a government in place, these are stories that you would not be seeing. When we're able to benefit from our oil, instead of opening our mouths and talking nonsense about who's in power and whatever it is, let us start looking at how we could get a better oil deal, whether we could have a government in place, whether we could have democracy rules, whether we could have our rules work, our laws at work, and we could have things happening instead of fighting and want to break the laws and go against all logics and have frivolous court actions. Yog?
Correct. Yes, Leonard, indeed. And that story speaks of what is happening in this country, doesn't it? Look, it is sad that they have had to walk and get to that stage where so much help is needed. But you mentioned another thing there, that the authorities would have
the police
would have, yeah, Leonard, I don't know what's happening and what we think will happen. The people who are holding on to power at all costs, you would remember, up to the man has all of a sudden gone silent. This is Nagamotu, right? Up to a couple of weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, he was brandishing his
sword,
his anger. Yes, he was brandishing, venting at the entire world for daring to talk about Guyana and daring to talk about things and daring to talk about whatever. And I don't know. I mean, he's not venting. You don't hear a peep from this gentleman about this little girl or about people who's punishing across the country, Leonard. It's depressing when you think about it, that our children would suffer. Our children would suffer. We're beating each other up on social media, and our children are suffering. We're beating each other up, and we're going to do all kinds of thing with coffins and this and that and the other. But our children do not have food to eat. We're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on one court case after another, Leonard.
I'm not sure who's Dexter Beard. Who's Dexter Beard?
I don't know.
Dexter Beard should get his act together. In any case, does it. So it's 226-7453, 226-7453. We want to hear your calls. We're going to try to entertain as much calls, talk a little less today. And you could also text us on 62222. Do not call us on 62222. We can't answer that. So it's 2267.
Right.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the calls are coming in. Let's just do a flashback. Last night was a fantastic discussion, wasn't it? First, we had an update from Commissioner Sezgan-Raj, and then the ensuing discussions between attorneys at law Sion Durjan and Marcia Nadir Sharma was quite interesting, because we were able to highlight quite a few of the finer points in law. One must recall that attorney at law, Mrs. Sion Durjan, he raised this point which was mentioned in the court yesterday about matters that are res judicata. And to that point, ladies and gentlemen, that young man made an excellent point there. Courts are always going to be very cognizant about whether matters are res judicata or whether matters are within their jurisdiction, whether they can listen to it or not, and whether another superior, especially a superior court, has already decided on this matter or on a similar matter. And as long as a superior court might have decided on that matter or a similar matter, then the court will be most hesitant, because if you wade into things, then you create confusion. You create, unless a law really needs to be revised by making a new decision to overturn that one, then like what the CCJ did with the Court of Appeal decision, then you would have a thing where a decision is a decision and it stands, especially when it comes from a superior court like the CCJ. So I think there are some quite interesting times ahead, but I would like to really commend Mr. Sion Durjan for, that quite impeccable approach last night with regards to dissecting the law, as well as Marcia Nadir Sharma. It was refreshing to have two of our younger lawyers there talking about some of these points, isn't it?
I think bottom line, Yog, is that we have some very, very brilliant people right here in our country, and we've seen that time and again. We have to just dig deep right within and use the people that we have here to build this country. It's very, very simple. And so when we start fighting among ourselves and we spend our energies every day going after negative things, and you have politicians again who are not doing anything except filling their pockets, being very selfish, well, then these are the problems that we're going to have. People complaining, people doing everything within their powers to stay in power. So let us go straight to the lines. Good afternoon, caller, you on the air?
Yes, Leonard?
Yes, it is. You're on the air, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm calling from New York. Chris, calling from Queens. Listen, a quick advice to you guys. Can you guys add a dozen lineman? Because there's so many people in the USA trying to call in, and they can't get on because the one line that you're using are always busy. I mean, I've been trying for the past 2 weeks before I finally got on today. Anyway, I would like to echo every sentiment that Yog would have mentioned just now about the punishment that the Guyanese youths are going through, compliments of these guys who just want to hold on to power at all costs. I mean, there are a lot of people who would have asked me, well, why am I so interested in what is going on in Guyana, having living in the U.S. for so long, but my heart and mind is still in Guyana. As I speak, I am getting very emotional.
Yes, my brother.
We are bleeding over here. We are bleeding over here to know what's going on to that country. And people are dying. People are dying with COVID-19. People are starving there. We cannot send anything from over here because of the fact that nothing is going to Guyana right now. It's an impossible feeling. It's an impossible feeling. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to me, and I wish you guys all the best and hope we can see light at the end of the tunnel before this week is over. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much, dear caller. Yog, and you see, that has reinforced the point what I was saying the last couple of minutes. We have decent, good people here, and not only here, the diaspora has been with us foot to foot. They've been paying very, very close attention. Everything that has been coming out through the media, even with us through this program here in the afternoon, in the evening, they've been with us. They're hungry for information. They want to help. We are thousands, I would say several persons would have been reaching out, wanting to help across here, and they don't know how to do it. But I feel for that gentleman. I could feel the pain, and that is reflective of so many thousands of persons here who are just, on the back foot, frustrated. They can't do anything because you have a couple of people who've basically controlled, and they have, I don't know, but that gentleman has made me emotional too, Yog. Go ahead.
Yeah, Leonard, it is very emotional. I feel the pain of, and ladies and gentlemen, trust me, when we go out to some of the communities and you see the children and the state, and like that caller, you get very emotional. And sir, my brother, I hear you, and I do believe that we will see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's a long, hard journey. It's 135, 136 days and counting. But you know what? Look at it this way. Many Guyanese, many of our youngsters, many of our persons, we would have forgotten what a dictatorship was like. We would have forgotten what those days of the 1980s, having children starve, having no food stuff, having things happening in this country. We forgot about it, and the youngsters didn't want to listen. We didn't want to listen to our parents. We don't want to listen to the experience of people from the 1960s, 1970s, and now we are kind of seeing it in our faces. So the sad thing with that, ladies and gentlemen, is that somehow or the other people are making it into a racial matter, into a matter of race. I don't see race. I see a set of hungry politicians. I see a set of opportunists. Because I don't care what race Mr. Nagamutu is or what race Mr. Granger is. I really don't care. What I see are people who are rank opportunists that really don't care about the people who are starving. Because the people who are starving, they don't know what races are starving. They don't know what races are undergoing pressures. So, Leonard, this serious lesson is now going to ensure that 3-4 generations from today, Leonard, your children and my children are seeing it for themselves. They will be telling their children. And so it is nonsense. It is things that has gone on for very long, but there is a lesson in it for us all. The saddest thing, Leonard, is to go back to what you keep reminding us of, that the state of governance in Guyana has lost big time. Because where will there be, in this current scenario, or in the next immediate government, where will there be a responsible opposition? And if you don't have a responsible opposition, God help us all with a government that will feel they can do whatever they want to do. Mm-hmm. So that is where we are set back. And we have learned a serious lesson about politicians that speak with forked tongue and want to tell us that, we're going to vote. Remember AFC APNU 2014, 2013, voted $1 to choke, to squeeze, to strangle the Guyana rag. And NCN, and what they did today, they're pumping money into it to ensure that the lies, the nonsense is spewed every day. These are the same people, Leonard, there is an old word I'm reminded of just now by one of our persons sent me a comment, Nima Karam, shameless. These are the same set of people that are shameless, that the things they criticized before, they are now proud to wear it as their badge of honor, badge of shameless honor in ensuring that Guyana is not just set back in Guyana, but across the world, people are looking at us with disdain and scorn. It really hurts.
Yes, it does. And I could hear the pain in that gentleman's voice. Thank you very much, sir. I think it's reflective of so many others. Good day, I'm calling from Suriname. It's so sad to see what is happening in Guyana because of the lack of transparency and honesty. I have family and grandparents living in Guyana, and they're in fear of everything going on. This is so sad. We're praying here in Suriname that God will intervene and the losing party will accept defeat and step down peacefully. So we are going to go to the lines again. Good day, caller. You on the air?
Hello?
Yes, good day, sir. You on the air?
I'm on the air?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm calling from Canada.
Yes.
And I would like to ask your guys, Yog Mahadeo and Leonard Gildarie, I have a point to share with them.
Sure, go ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay. On another program last night, there's a guy from Barbados, I think. His name is Peter Wickham.
Yes, those a couple of nights back. 2 nights back, I think it is.
Yeah, he was on your program too. But he was talking about what is called an amnesty, and he made reference to the Trinidad 1990 coup. While this is a valid point, and he may be well-intentioned. We got to remember in 1992, when there was a change in government, Cherry Dragon did something similar to an amnesty.
True, true.
Did not prosecute or investigate anybody. Is he asking for a second amnesty for these guys now? That would be my my point I want to share with them. And here they come in.
Right.
Thank you very much, caller. And on behalf of Kaicho Radio, myself, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, want to say hello to everybody there down in Canada. Over to you, Yog.
Yes, and to that caller, yes, you have a point, sir. And a lot of people, everybody is affected one way or another. We're all emotional about discussing. I mean, some people find it abhorrent, the thought that you could say, okay, Mr. Chitlo, and feel enjoy the rest of your retirement in peace. Without facing any penalties of law. Some people would find it abhorrent to their nature, to your thinking, to your logic, that a Mingo could get off scot-free for doing what he did to this nation. But at the end of the day, you have a situation here now, a negotiation. It's like, okay, put it this way. A group of persons have taken Guyana, kidnapped Guyana, holding it at ransom. Kidnapped Guyana, holding it at ransom. What do? You cannot storm them. You cannot do anything like that. You have to negotiate. In negotiation, sometimes you have to offer people, look, the way forward is you would want me to forgive some of your sins. And so to bring situation to an end, sometimes you got to take a step back and say, can we look at this approach? And I believe, Leonard, to become said what he had to say well. And remember, Freddie Kissoon, who we're going to have tomorrow night in room 592, Freddie Kissoon opposed that. He said no, he don't think it's going to work because whether you penalize them or you forgive them, if their mind is set on something, they're going to do it anyhow. So they're opposing views. What I think we have done in room 592, Leonard, is to bring out all the views so that the population know that we are making educated decisions when we do make one. That the politicians, the stakeholders that are opposed to this current, the Regadere and the dictatorship, that all the stakeholders are educated of what the people think and what the experts feel. So that's how it should be approached. I am not opposed to the talk of a negotiated agreement as to the way forward. I know a lot of people wouldn't like this. I am supportive that we must talk, we must start the dialogue. Where does Guyana go? If always 20% or 10% or whatever percent of our persons are going to feel that they're never going to be represented by a PPP government or by a PNC government, we got to start having some talk, and we got to have it quickly, because it's not going to resolve itself by one party staying in power and another staying in opposition.
Thank you very much. And a caller, a listener, Yog, you're right. Room 592 has really lifted the bar when it comes to getting deeper. Even sometimes, I must admit, I'm a little lost sometimes because the language is very deep, the subject matter, but I've learned so many things dealing with people like Freddie, Peter Wickham, then you would have had Ron Saunders. We even had that gentleman there that you would have bought, I think it was from the St. Vincent and Grenadines a couple of weeks back.
James?
Yes.
Sir James?
Yes, Sir James. Very interesting man. And you would have had them, and you see so many young lawyers. Last evening, 2 lawyers, one a woman, one a man, and you listen to them. Very young, very young.
If I may, look at the power of negotiation and agreements, right? In the 1985 elections, was it 1992 elections? Sorry. 1992 elections, one got to remember that the elections were due 2 years before that, The elections were due before that. Hoyt was refusing to give up power, almost similar to what we have here. He had refused to have the kind of changes that would ensure free and fair elections. What had to happen was a lot of the same Caribbean leaders had to help, had to give, and you remember Sir James said in the room 592 that they were the ones that tell Hoyt, if you really want to show that you are a changed man and that you're not born, and bring back the people flour, bring back the people split peas and stuff like that. Now, many Guyanese did not know that that happened because of pressure and negotiations from outsiders. We thought the man just did it on his own. But those were startling revelations, Leonard. But the point is, it spoke to how negotiations can bring an end to dictatorships.
And not only that, how the region has played a role in the history of Guyana. We have somebody here from the Bahamas. Thank you for joining us. They're telling us, don't quit, gentlemen. Yog and Gildarie, don't quit. I'm not sure where we talk about quit. Good afternoon, my brothers and sisters and everyone. The PPP stronghold, you guys have patience. Faith is a substance of things, hope for evidence of things not seen. May God continue to bless you guys. That's coming straight from the Bible there. Good afternoon, Yog and Gildarie. From Glasgow Housing Scheme, East Bank, Berbice. I followed the whole election process, and now I'm fed up with what's going on. The process caused loss of earnings. I have 4 kids, 1, 7, 13, 18. Very hard for me. I just hope this will be done soon, or I will perish. Whole village is celebrating AFC. APNU won the election. We Indian, well, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there at all. It's not something that I want to perpetuate. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm from Region 5. Can you say if the church can open under the new curfew measures? Thank you very much for this. Yoga, let me very quickly read. There's a development with regards to the curfew. There is some new measures that's coming out now from the COVID task force that is headed by the person who has not been seen for a little while, has been issuing statements and writing columns, but as chairperson for the task force has made it very clear that from his absence that he's not doing his work, no other than Moses Nagamutu. But this is a statement that is coming from the COVID-19 task force, and this is what it says here. Phase 3 of the Guyana's reopening commences tomorrow. Curfew moved from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. So it used to be 6 p.m. before. It's moved to 8 p.m. now, except in specifically excluded areas. Public sector to resume work on rotations. Outdoor dining permitted from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., not after hours. So you can't go to dinner because it closes at 6 p.m. So you could have outdoor dining. The National COVID-19 Task Force announces that Phase 3 of Guyana's reopening process will commence a schedule tomorrow, Friday, July the 17th, and shall continue until July the 31st, 2020. In Phase 3, the following measures will apply. The full measures as outlined in the attached order number 66, COVID-19 emergency measures. The national curfew will now be from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. So they've been shifted by 2 hours upwards. From 6 p.m. it used to be you can't be on the road after without a valid reason. After 6 o'clock, they're saying that it happens from 8 o'clock now. The curfew shall not apply in regions 5 and 6 on Mondays to Fridays, but shall in effect on Saturdays and Sundays in these 2 regions. It means that in region 5 and 6, there will be no curfew, but on Saturday and Sundays it will be in effect. The curfew shall be in effect in all other regions every day of the week. So you could probably go to Kaichor or my page, Dr. Yog Mahadeo page, and you could get those new measures. We're going to try to get up with you what the gazetted order is saying, and you could read for yourself about what should be open or what should not. After the show, we're going to try to put it up there. So, Yoga, that's where it's at with the COVID-19. There's been a shift from the hours. So, if you're not joining us, it's elections and COVID-19 watch here on Kaicho Radio. You could get us on 99.1, 99.5 FM. Also, Kaicho Radio on Facebook, on YouTube. On YouTube, you could hit the subscribe button so you can receive the alerts of when we go live. So we go straight to the phones again. There's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You're here.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
I would just like to say that I have lived through the 23 years of the PPP. And yes, the PPP government did a lot of things that they should not have done when they were in power. But my God, you compare what they did to what the present administration is doing to this country, and try and see which one really makes sense. I mean, come on, man. I'm a Guyanese, buddy. Understand? And this is hurting me. This is hurting me. I'm talking here from my heart. To see people struggling, and I'm speaking here about myself also, to provide for your family. You cannot go out there and do what you gotta do. And you got people like the president of this country who's saying he loves country and he's a patriotic Guyanese, and doing this crap that he's doing to this nation. Joseph Harmon and these guys, and doing these things that they're doing to this nation. These guys would not pack a hamper and go and stand up by Starbrook Square and say, everybody come and collect something to eat. Yeah?
My brother, I hear you there. Could you tell me a little about your situation? I want to hear from you. What is happening? Have you lost?
Mr. Gildarie, you know my situation. I had a conversation with you already.
All right, I hear you.
You know my situation. It's this thing. You see what? You see the thing about it. You see the thing about it. We as Guyanese, we can get blind to things when we want to get blind to things, and see the reality of things when we want to see the reality of things. And I am not afraid to say this as an Afro-Guyanese. If the shoes was on the other foot, the situation would have been different in this country. The situation would have been different in this country.
Right. Yeah. You're
and
right.
this, I have no apology of saying this, man. This nonsense needs to stop. It needs to stop. When the present administration was calling for sanctions in 2015, everybody was jumping hip, yeah, let it come. Now it come, but it come the other way around. It's a big issue. We need to cut this thing out. We need to cut it. People got bills to pay. People got rent to pay. People struggling to pay the rent. People struggling to feed the children. I'm talking to you with tears running down my face. This is nonsense in this country, man.
Thank you.
The president of this country got over 100 and something people that is driving behind me to protect me. No, if you got more... Look.
I hear you, my brother. You have my number. Call me.
Have a pleasant afternoon, guys.
Thank you very much. Yog?
Leonard, people are affected one way or another. And, I just would like to remind everybody that a lot of people are suffering. We sometimes take things for granted. And that last caller reminded us of that exact fact, that those that are in power presently, they take things for granted. Their life is secured, that they're earning a salary. Regardless of what happens, ladies and gentlemen, the president of this country is going to earn his $1 million pension after he goes out of power. But you and I would have to continue to work for our daily wage. And I'm not saying, that it's something that we want to debate here. All I'm saying that the inequality, the disparity is glaring. Leonard, you and I said it before, there are some ministries that are not essential. Can one tell me what is the purpose of a ministry of citizenship now? What are we doing? Why couldn't this government, if they really cared about this country, say, you know what, it's COVID-19, let us contract, let us reduce the size of our government so we could save some money, we could save on public expenditure, we could save on people using their publicly acquired vehicle and gas and everything like that. But Leonard, not a single, this current government has never made a single move to reduce its own cost that the taxpayers are burdened with. Not a single move has ever been made. In fact, they have been bloated and bloated and bloated. When this government came in office, one of the first things they did was to reenact the Burnhamite type of administration with so much vice presidents and all of that. We got to remember these things. And they have shown, Leonard, they really, and that caller is so right. Again, I mean, people are feeling it, Leonard. How do we go about sharing the pain? I really don't know. I don't know what else we can do. And this is what I'd like to refer to that caller that called from overseas. This is what gets Leonard and I going, ladies and gentlemen, because the solution is to remove ourselves, remove the veil of ignorance from our people, remove ourselves from this veil that we have thrown over our faces about these political masters. The solution is to ensure that democracy prevails and that the legitimate government is sworn into power and that we can move ahead. Until we have a legitimate government sworn into power, it's going to get worse with every passing day, Leonard. Every passing day, it's going to get worse and worse.
I would love for them to open up the phone, Yog, and let the people who've been calling us call them and give them the frustration that they're going through. Yog, you got to hear the people's voice. You got to listen to the stories. It is damn heartbreaking. You got to hear about the children. You got to hear about the food. I'm literally broke now. You know why? Almost all my money has gone into something or the other. I shouldn't even be saying this on air. That's not me. But when you hear the stories, the Yog, you want to cry, you want to scream, you want to tear your hair out. Because this is something that we have allowed ourselves, a couple of politicians, a couple of people in Guyana, to control the entire destiny of this nation. We have oil like crazy out there. I keep saying it every day. Wake up and smell the coffee, people. It belongs to you. It's in your backyard. A couple of people sitting in a couple of offices out there, people like the Moses Nagamoto and others, don't have a feel of what it's like on the people on the road. You listen to the man that's crying there. You listen to the people that call from overseas, and you hear the pain. And these are the things that matters to the people. At the end of the day, it's food on the table for your kids. Get your act together, people. Get your act together. So I think,
Leonard, there has been, the cavalier attitude of the current set of people in power has shown their care for this country. Remember 3 weeks ago, right? They took the bullhorns. They took those, what you call it, and they went out to the villages, and they sat in their air-conditioned vehicles, right? And they were talking through the bullhorns to people. They didn't go with some hampers. They didn't go with some food stuff. They didn't go with education. They went with ignorance. That showed you how much they care. And then, from then on, every time a foreign diplomat, every time a foreign head of state would talk something about sanctions, Leonard, these people have ridiculed it. They have tried to attack the foreign leaders. They have tried to put people into all kinds of spin that is unacceptable. And you have to come down to the fact where one has to assess really what is going on. Because when Harman et al., ladies and gentlemen, when they are on the state media, they're using taxpayers' money. They're using state assets to spew garbage. Leonard, not one time. Harman was on radio earlier today. He is on radio presently, I think. Is he saying anything to people? Okay, here is what. We will send some vouchers over to Crabwood Creek or to Blackbush Pole or to Albice Town or to Linden or to wherever in this country. He is not talking a word about giving people real help. And what we have, the saddest thing I've seen, you have two of them on our show here today. The saddest thing I've seen is people come here and they're talking about racism. What racism? By Yog talking this way or Leonard talking this, what races are we pointing to? Are you saying that APNO AFC is one race only? Are you saying PPPC is one race only? If you can say that, it means you're not just of stone-hearted, you're blind, deaf, and dumb. to throw racism into places where it doesn't belong. For you to say that, sir, you are the racist. And those are the people, Leonard, that continue to divide this country. They don't care, and they don't want others to care. They don't want to talk out against the deaths. You remember we had, is it Sian that mentioned last night, or was it the night before? One of our guests, I believe it was the night before, it was Selwyn Peters. Selwyn Peters said, you want to talk about deaths under the PPP government? Let's talk about the deaths that happen under this government. Extrajudicial killing that have happened now under this current government. Has any one of them asked what race of persons has died under this current government? No. Racism is a convenient tool to some of the hardest people out there. They are the racists for calling anybody race or belonging to any race, Leonard. I mean, we got to address these things, and we got to be very outspoken about it, because they're very heartless people out there. And last thing I'll tell you, Leonard, just give me 1 second here as I share this information with you. One of the things that I know that we want to look at is, from day one, the politicians have been talking about, well, what is this thing about sanctions, and who care about sanctions, and what does sanctions mean? Well, let me tell you, tonight in room 592, Leonard, we're going to have two special guests. We're going to have two persons. Let me tell you who they are. Two former State Department employees will be joining us tonight in room 592 to talk to this country and to talk to all of our viewers and listeners about how sanctions can affect small countries. We're going to have two persons, former employees of the State Department, and Mr. Douglas Muirs and Miss Deborah Mizier will be joining us in room 592 tonight, and they will be educating us about matters relating to sanctions and how those sanctions affect small countries. Leonard, this is no easy matter. And, you know, it hurt me this morning when I see some people ridiculing. We are all embarrassed and we are all ashamed, and I feel personally insulted that any Guyanese could have a sanction imposed on them. When you touch one, you touch all. But the problem is, unless this happens, these hard-hearted monsters are not going to change their ways. Unless these things happen, these criminals are not going to allow our people to breathe, are not going to want to see food on their table. Can Mr. Nagamutu come on radio and say, Guyanese brothers and sisters, how many of you don't have a meal to eat today? Look, Justin Trudeau, right? He was on television to do what? To tell the children that you got to learn from home. Unfortunately, we can't open the school, and I know it's hard to learn, but I will sit with you on air and we'll go through some learning lessons together. Leonard, compare that to what you have happening here. They have their maids, they have their domestic workers, helpers, they have everybody working with them, driving them, police following them like majesty going all over the place. They're not asking whether those callers who called in earlier today have any food on their table.
And that's the question.
With sanctions again, Leonard. Sorry to carry on.
No, those are the issues, Yogo, and let's don't beat around the bush here. Those are the issues that need to start talking about. And so I take you over to Suriname, Star News Suriname. Outgoing President Des about to say place presidential sash for his successor Chan Santoki. So there you have some pictures coming out that the outgoing president is taking the sash and it's putting it on in a very respectful manner on the incoming president. He's now the president. And so that is a ceremony that nation, former Dutch nation that is now independent, they have done that this morning. What example, what message is it sending to the authorities here in Guyana? Well, you should be very much ashamed. It's 4.5 months now, and it's not good. It's not good. I'm going to say that to you. We're also hearing some bad news here now, Yog. The second worker in the Bangzai's building that collapses died. I understand his name is Anthony Lowe, a 25-year-old man. Condolences to his family, his friends, his co-workers, everybody else from us here at Kaicho Radio, Kaicho News. Yog and Leonard, our nation will suffer. Guyana will be torn into the next Haiti if you're not careful. The risk and political assessment of our country is now totally destroyed. Our credit rating is zero. What are we waiting for the next generation? Except Norway, any other country under the petroleum umbrella is cursed and governed by the political turmoil. In conclusion, please read this narrative to your audience. Democracy has always been an imperfect way to govern, but today we're pushing the system to breaking point. It is like expecting a sturdy wooden bridge built for horse carts to carry endless streams of heavy lorries. We need to reform democracy substantially in order to save it. If we do not, the system itself is in danger of collapse, and something very dark may take place. How is it? Well, I think that's the person would have said that. And the person also said, from overseas, it hurts so bad to hear my brothers and sisters in Guyana are penniless and hungry. I've lived through the 8th strike in the 1962 where people were exploited at all levels just to survive. Can you imagine there was a birthday party for the modern day Pharaoh and people are hungry in Guyana? Why not feed the people instead of partying? This administration has no economic plan for Guyana when it comes to office. As an Afro and Indian mixed Guyanese race child, can you imagine how I feel when I see my people living under this tyranny? This is 2020. Gentlemen, it takes away the contributions of the the Indian businessmen in Guyana. We'd be worse off than the people in Afghanistan and Syria. The truth hurt, but look at the continent of Africa. God knows best. These people brought a curse onto our nation. And that is coming. You could feel it there. We have our people coming out, and the tears in the eyes, the voice breaking, and they're saying what it is. You guys need to play back the videos with them when they were calling for sanctions. I pray for you too, and I really hope APNU gets ahead and just be gone. They lost. There's a caller online. Yes. Good day, caller. You're on the air. Yes. Good day, caller. You're on the air.
Good day, sir.
Good afternoon. Yes. Good day.
Good afternoon. You know, you are speaking about amnesty, okay? And the point is, I would like to know if you give them amnesty, what you're doing to the young people. Because between me and you give them amnesty, the young people will want to do the same. You understand me? And the next thing is that I think these people should pay back the money that they spent on all the court scene and whatever it is, or you seize the party assets or something of the kind. Because between me and you can't let this people get away with like that. You're not showing the young people, or you're not showing Guyanese nothing. Okay, sir, thanks.
Thank you very much there. Yog, somebody is asking that you probably bring on Ramon Gaskin too. They want to hear from people like Freddie and Ramon Gaskin. Good afternoon to you all, sir. We are all fed up. We're suffering bad. We can feel our children now. We're now working for 5 months. How much more will we suffer? This is painful when we have to feed the children. Oh my God, this is what. And so it is all coming, Yoga. This is so heartbreaking. I will send some money for him. You know, so people are offering to send money. I really love you guys today, man. The love that is coming out for fellow Guyanese here. This is something. Yog, I've said it before and I will say it again. We have wonderful people in this country who want to see what is best. And I think, we've always said it, this elections, COVID-19 has brought out the best in our people. I want to say thank you very much for that. It has opened my eyes too. Yog, this evening, and so we're going to come back. U.S. State Department officials, former U.S. State Department officials are going to be with us this evening to discuss the sanctions and what it really means. So in the meantime, let me bring you up to or up to speed of what has happened for today in terms of elections 2020. And so the U.S. Embassy this morning would have had a press conference, and they are not letting too much out of the bag when it comes to who are the persons that have been slapped with visa revocations. What they said initially is that when those persons turn up to travel, they would know. Maybe when they go for visa renewals, they would know. And then they had a clarification afterward. They said they are going to individually alert those persons whom actions have been taken about the visa revocation. In the meantime, we have been told that there's a list of over 40 persons, including starting with President David Granger and including Prime Minister Moses Nagamoto and several others of who would have been members of the cabinet, including the list would include lawyers, financiers. BK Tiwari reportedly is on that list with his family. There would have been others as well. So this is getting very serious. In the meantime, Canada has also warned that it will use all tools at its disposal to force or to ensure that democracy wins in Guyana. UK is reportedly working on that. And the big news is that Brazil came out yesterday recognizing that that recount and warning of that it can it's not willing to accept anything else. And of course, CARICOM chair Ralph Gonsalves yesterday would have come out swinging as CARICOM chair and as Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. If there's nothing else, even the sanctions that would have really taken the cake yesterday, that would have, if you believe that there's supposed to be diplomatic language between one country or the other, or between CARICOM, the gloves have been taken off, and what Ralph Gonsalves, as chair of CARICOM, has made it very clear is that this situation is unbelievable, unacceptable, and there should be a resolution as early as quickly as possible. The government of Guyana, headed by David Granger, they have come out and said that we have not interfered with GCOM. They have not interfered with court. In fact, there's a court matter ongoing, and they will await on that and the declarations. And that sanctions announced by U.S. Secretary of State, by the U.S., the government of the United States yesterday, and announced by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, would have come on the 75th birthday celebrations. It was a celebration in the State House yesterday with a number of high-ranking officials of the Granger administration there, the caretaker government, that is. So that is what we have so far. In the meantime, with regards to COVID-19, the task force has announced the lifting of or some shifting of the curfew measures. One of them, the big one, would be instead of 6 o'clock, being that you would have to be off the road, and only persons who have are essential workers could be on the road. They're saying that that starts at 8 o'clock instead, and of course closes at 6 o'clock. And then they're going to allow outside dining by some restaurants or so, but that have to be during the day. It cannot be any time after that. So we're going to bring you some more information with regards to that. In the meantime, anything, Yog, before we head to the phone lines again?
Well, no, except to remind everyone that, we got to continue supporting each other, regardless of how the attacks come, regardless of what people do to us, regardless of how they're insulting and call us all kinds of names and threatening us as well and threatening our families. We got to all support each other. At the end of the day, that's what we have, our support for each other and our ability to move ahead as soon as the big man allows this country to move ahead, then we'll certainly move ahead hand in hand, Leonard.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Yog. Not a person that whose name reportedly that is on the list is Simona Brooms, and she would have come out. She would have been one of them. Don't forget, somebody who came out, burst into the spotlight with her work with a women's group and trafficking in person. She is one of them that reportedly is named on. She was recognized by the U.S. Government as well, I think a couple of years back, for her work as well. So she has been one of them that's on the reportedly on the list of persons that sanctions. She has visa revocations or visas been revoked. Good afternoon. What would it take for Guyanese people to have some assistance in this difficult time? It's very hard to pay your bills and put food on the table. Good afternoon. Is it possible that the ERC and other heads can call PPP supporters and APNU supporters together and discuss the situation that is happening across the country? Very good point. Yoga, this issue of the ERC, we'd have to probably get the chairperson happens to be somebody who I think is a pastor. Am I right, Pastor Smith?
Yes.
We'd probably have to get them here because this country, we are paying a bunch of money. We are paying a bunch of money every year. We put aside a lot of money for these constitutional bodies. And then you wonder, all you just see from time to time, one, two statements being issued. And so we'd have to be very, very cognizant of the fact that why are we spending our monies? Now is the time for you to prove your worth, and entities like the Ethnic Relations Commission, the Ministry of Social Protection, and all the others who've been given billions of dollars to run, they have to prove the worth. And so we want to hear from the EIC, what exactly have you been doing? Now is the time for you to prove your existence, to come out and say to the people of Guyana what it is that you've been doing to maybe ease some of the pressure that they think every single day, Yog. One of the persons, oh, by the way, big story, I forgot this. There was a gentleman in our group a couple of weeks back that was coming on here and threatening all the ladies about what he wants to do with them. He went by the name of some Rahim something.
Right.
Something. I can't remember the name. He went.
Rahman.
Yes, Rahman. It sounds like a Muslim name. We found out that after he started harassing the women, and he was being very disrespectful to especially the persons that were looking, and persons he believed that were of a particular political persuasion. We blocked him because he was using bad words and things like that. He decided to turn his attention on no other than the GCOM chair, Claudette Singh. And I can't remember, but I think he did say that he would go to her house and there would be some kind of burning or something like that. And so the good lady, the GCOM chair, complained to the police, and the police decided to act. And I must say, this is something that really surprised me, because in this day when everybody has been accusing the police of being partisan, the police acted, and the police went to Linden and arrested a man by the name of Alton Williams. I must tell you these things because these are the things. These are some of the people who have been coming out and tormenting our people. And he has been. Let me just get his name here. Alton Williams. That's the name that's coming out here. Alton Williams, and he reportedly admitted that yes, he did it. He was very upset, and he did it. I think charges are going to be because he threatened the GCOM chair, and he created a fake profile. Yog, I want to ask you a question. Is it against Facebook rules to create all these fake profiles, whatever it is, and torment people?
It is against, and unfortunately, the social media being what it is, people get away with it because, not enough people would block them or would report them. We take offense at what they say and we respond. In other words, the moment you respond to someone that does this kind of trash on social media, if you share it and then you respond, you're making them more popular. And, I continue to advise everybody, as soon as somebody posts something, block them. Just block them. Over the past, I've run out of patience. Leonard, you know me. I'm very easygoing. I would allow people to say whatever they want and do whatever they want on my Facebook page. But I draw a line when people start cursing and being abusive, and when they're racist. And so over the past 2 weeks, I probably blocked maybe 10, 12 persons. I really don't care anymore, because you cannot come onto our space and try to impose, what is your view. I didn't invite you to come and whisper your hate into my ears. And so I'm going to block my ears if you're going to whisper your hate. Keep it for your own space. I don't go on your space and tell you what to think or not to think. So we got to ensure we can block these people, because guess what, viewers and listeners, if you don't give them an audience, they don't have anybody to talk to.
Yes, it is. And I fully agree with you. So we go straight to the line again. Caller, you in the air. Good afternoon. Sorry, we missed that. Good afternoon, gentlemen. As it relates to the elections, every time that I think that the process is closing to come into an end, something always comes up. If it's not a court case, it's some other nonsense. look, we can't continue to be held at ransom like this. This country needs to move forward, but you have a few people who seems to not want us to move forward as a people and only want to continue to hold on to power, even they clearly lost this elections. I can't understand this. Look, I honestly don't know what to think anymore. I don't know. This is frustration coming from our people. We are all starving. Good afternoon to you guys. These people don't care about our people, but when they die, they want to know how come we have no food. That's what's killing us. You guys working for free? Is that true? Yes, it is indeed true. Yog would have come to Kaichor. Let me tell you about this. I'm not sure whether my boss would be thinking, but hello to you, Mr. Glenn Lal, a good man. He has filed a court case against NISIL to overturn all those cases, what he terms a giveaway of lands without being properly authorized on the East Coast. They are very prime, valuable lands. A good day to you, Mr. Lal. And if you're listening to me, I am overstepping my boundaries here. But Yog did come to us, says that he's interested in doing a radio program, that he's been following the radio, and he made a proposal, and I said I want to be on board with you too, and that's how Room 592 came about. And of course, with the afternoon, I started something on Elections Day with the Elections Watch, and it took a life of its own. And Yog has been here foot to foot with us on Kaicho Radio. And let me tell you this, Yog, I've learned a lot from you, my brother, and I feel your passion. And Guyana needs people like you. While I saw it in the beginning as part of my duty in the media, it has taken a life of its own, and I've dropped everything from even writing. Some days I don't even go downstairs. I do very little writing now because this is something that is so important. When we see the number of persons who've been reaching out to us, the emotions, the little things that we could do to make this country better, I realize that some days that maybe we don't need politicians, that we need more people like Yog Mahadeo and the Glenn Lals and so on. I don't want to blow Glenn Lal horn, but it is what it is. These are the things that are important, and that is how we are going to survive, by having people, decent, good people in this country. So it is what it is.
Thank you, Leonard.
So I wanted to say that. So somebody asked a question as to whether we guys are not getting paid. Well, it is indeed true. Yog is not getting paid. I can tell you that for a fact. I thank you guys for doing work, you and Yog. I wish more minds and hearts are like you. We don't want to blow our hands. So thank you, though. We appreciate. A good day to you, gentlemen. Keep up the good work. I'm listening. It breaks my heart to hear those two gentlemen cry. It's heartbreaking. We are suffering. I'm a public servant, so can you imagine what we're hearing there. So I think we go to another call right now. Yes. Good day, caller. You in the air?
Hi, is this Kaicho News?
Yes, it is. Could you lower your volume on your radio, please, right away? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Gildarie?
Yes, Mr. Gildarie and Yog here.
Okay, good afternoon,
Good
sir.
afternoon, ma'am.
Okay, everything that's going on with the election and the COVID, but I'm calling to tell you people something that I saw, and it's not right. I'm living at Dutch 4. I don't know if you know the village.
Yes.
You know Dutch 4.
Mm-hmm.
And the back of Dutch 4 got rice land. Right?
Yes, go ahead quickly.
And now we got two dams divided and through from Dutch 4. It's two trenches. Now I see it got some people go there and make concrete house on the dam. So I don't know what is going on.
Could you get somebody to take some pictures and send it to us?
Oh, I don't have a cell phone.
All right, we're going to make some arrangement. Any specific areas, we could probably make some arrangement to somebody
Yeah,
get on
it's
there.
a flat concrete house built there.
How much buildings? How much buildings have they put up there?
I only see one.
One. And this is on the dam in Dutch 4 the back there.
Right. On Dutch 4, the dam divided, the scheme for go over to Ant's Roof.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We're going to make some arrangements for that and to take it from there.
Okay then, sir. Thank you very much.
God bless. So Yog, in the meantime, let's talk back a little about what you have planned for us tonight. We need to remind the people about the visa revocations and two guests who are going to shed some light, bring a little more clarity to some of the questions that we may be asking. It's the first time that our country here is going to see sanctions being placed. This is a modern age on officials, and these are sitting not only the president but other officials within the country because of our democracy, the rule of law, and everything under attack. Tell us a little bit, Ayog.
Well, yes, we have two former State Department employees that will be discussing with us in room 592, what are the implications of sanctions for small countries like Guyana? What does it mean and stuff like that. Amazingly, Mr. Douglas Muirs would have been attached to State Department, attached to the defense. I'm going to confirm this in a minute, but the defense, the Secretary of Defense's office, he would have given advice to the U.S. government on matters pertaining to places like Somalia and Botswana and so forth. So he's well experienced into this kind of political play. And also the second guest we'll have tonight will be Miss Deborah Mizir. Mr. Deborah Mizir, for those people who don't know the name, she is a sharp. She's also a former person of the U.S. administration. I think during the Bush years, she would have served in the United States government. She's an attorney at law as well. And guess what, Leonard? She's of Guyanese origin.
Wow.
So, yeah, it would be great to talk to Miss Deborah Mizir. I think she hails from somewhere up in New Amsterdam area, or somewhere in Berbice, obviously, but I don't know whether it's in New Amsterdam area per se. So it's going to be refreshing to have somebody who has spent her life serving government at such a high level, both of them to talk to us about the implications of what's happening here in Guyana and what happens if we continue along this path. Where do we go from here?
Absolutely, Yog, and this one will bring a smile to my face. I was feeling a little depressed there by those callers. Could feel the pain in their voice, and it was not in a good mood with that. Good afternoon, guys, and I'm going to try a little Hindi here. It looks like Hindi. Bear with me, Yogi, if I pronounce it wrong. I never had a training. I didn't go to school in this. Good afternoon, guys. Bahut kam kare. Continue the great work. Did I pronounce it right?
Bahut kaam kare.
Yes.
Good. Very good job. Very good work.
Very good work. Very good. I like that. So I have Raj that came here. I'm going to try to get him. Raj, you're here, right? Let us see. Come. He's going to read it.
Good afternoon, guys. बहुत काम करे, बहुत अच्छा काम करे.
What does it mean?
You're doing such a good job. Great job, yeah.
Okay, I think you guys got to see. Come over here, Raj. Let people come see you. Come. If you don't know, this is Raj. This is Raj. Raj is all the way from India, by the way, and he's come here and started working Culture News. And if you know, there's a story that's developing, Yog. We have so many people. We have Venezuelans here, thousands of Venezuelans is here now. We have Brazilians, we have Haitians. This country in the next couple of years, you're not going to recognize it. So you probably when we start telling the story in a couple of years now, people like Raj, they're going to probably tell the grandchildren. I came and I met Yog and I met Gildarie and I spoke to the people of Guyana. And it is a very critical stage in our history when the history books are being written 2020 and court cases and everything else. I would love to see the title of a book that is going to be written. There should be books being written on this. I'm always going to remember it. Good afternoon. Keep up the good work you both doing. I'm so pleased to hear that you all talk about sanctions today. At least some APNU supporters will learn something about what is sanctions and comments, and they're talking nonsense. I'm so sorry for them people that are out of jobs and starving. We are sorry for that too. Good afternoon. I'm very worried about the situation in Guyana. My question is that if the APNU have seen a few people holding on to power and don't want to concede, can the UN come to the country and force them to take out put a legitimate government. They didn't say take out, force them out and put a legitimate government. Yo, could the UN just do that, or what's the procedures? Do we know?
I would want to hope, and I know. I mean, the answer is a short no. We haven't. You want to look at countries where there's genocide. You want to look at countries where human rights are persistently trampled upon and stuff like that. What we have here is some politicians who want to hold on to power. And, we, at the end of the day, Leonard, the will of the people has to be respected. And the will of the people has to be respected by work of the people. If we sit by idly, Leonard, let me tell you this. If you and I, if the stakeholders, Josh Kanhaishaz, Ali Randall Lam, if all of these guys, if all these ladies and gentlemen, Bar Jack Deo and his team, if everybody didn't agitate and come out here and talk about it, if we had all been docile on that night when Mingo tried to Mingoize Guyana, mess up Guyana, if everybody was dormant as a dormouse and just silent and say, yes, master, this is what we're going to accept from you, then the world won't have been on our side. So it is a factor because we have been vigilant, we have been agitating, we are showing them that we're standing up for right, that they will stand up for us. We got to continue to stand up. We got to continue representing ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, or they're not going to. So the short answer is no, there is no need for them to come and there is no need. That's when you're going to trample upon a sovereignty per se, occupation of people's land and stuff like that. That's another, and hopefully we will never, ever, ever get to that.
Thank you very much, Yog Mahadeo, for joining us. It's elections and COVID-19 watch. It's been more than 135 days we've been coming to you here on Kaicho Radio, bringing you elections and, of course, the COVID-19 developments. We would have recorded, unfortunately, every time we see live loss to COVID, it hurts us a lot. A 36-year-old man would have died in the Georgetown Public Hospital yesterday. We don't have any much details other than that being announced by the authorities today. And also, we could head straight to the lines, take a couple calls. We want to hear from the people. Good afternoon, caller, you're there. Yes, good afternoon, caller. Good afternoon, sir.
So, Leonard, a couple minutes ago, you're talking about the guy that got held in Linden making threats to the chairperson.
Yes.
I heard you call two names there. You called the fake profile name, and then you called the name of the actual person.
Yes.
That got arrested. Did anything stand out to you there?
Not really. We could only report. Not really. We didn't draw any other conclusion.
But there's been a long-held belief that there are a lot of fake profiles floating around that have been inciting things between the races in Guyana.
Okay, right.
Right? And when you look at the names that these fake profiles have, and then now you actually find one of the persons that is behind it, it tells you a lot. So I don't think that name was chosen by chance. So I think that person should, if you look at the profile, I think that person should also be having charges from the Racial Hostility Act and should be made an example of. But I have a feeling that if it carries on, he'll have a presidential pardon. That's all my contribution today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yog. And Yog, I think it was, in the meantime, we say goodbye there to that gentleman. You did raise a point the other day that Rahim Rahman, it's such a name, it's a Muslim, I think you could say that it's a Muslim name, and it sounds
it's a respected name in Muslim community. Rahim, it's a respected name. So I found it weird, and that caller is actually spot on. I mean, it's not something that we wanted to deliberate on, but now that he has raised it, he's spot on. There is a reason to choose names that sound like that, I guess, in this person's mind, and he knows exactly what mischief. And there should be more than just that. There should be intent to create, to incite hate, intent, all kinds of things, because this is beyond approach, beyond ordinary reproach. The person has purposely engineered an alias that appear and sounds like some people. I don't know if he wanted to get to the spot where he's even adopting something to say, okay, it's something to do with the president-elect or whatever. I don't know.
There's many others like the Hugo Sebastians and a couple of them, and I'm going to start calling them, and you could come after me too. It's okay. It's that time of the year that we do what we have to do. Good afternoon. When they all get sanctioned, the whole Guyana will punish and be like other small countries. We also stress out what will be the outcome. Let's go to another colleague there. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, good afternoon, caller. Could you lower your volume on your radio right away, please? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, could you lower your volume on your radio, please?
Yep.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon to you,
Good afternoon.
Gildarie and Yog.
Good afternoon.
Right? Very popular guy in Guyana now.
Who's that? Yog?
Both of you, man.
I don't know what I think you use the word popular in a different way. I'm not sure popular. But go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
You became popular before the election, man. Anyway, I wanna raise a few points. The first one is I wanna put a spin to. Well, I shouldn't use the word spin. I'm not a politician, but I find that a phrase that Yog loves to use, and I heard a lot of people use it too, especially those people in the private sector. They love to say, I paying you, the taxpayers paying you, right? We all know that the government pays the public servants and the military and the police and so forth. And the government vast money comes from taxes. But I as a person working for government and a public employee, I am not comfortable with you saying and you and I saying, I pay you and taxpayers paying you. You see, when person perform a task under labor law, when you work, you have to be paid. If I provide you labor, it's not free. I'm not donating it. It's not every days. So while you work, you got to pay the person. Where you get the money from? If I hire you and I bring you to read my yard, right? I have to pay you. Where I get the money to pay where I get legal money from, I earn $1 to pay the weeder man. The weeder man is no cost to the weeder man. I call you with me yard, you perform a task, you perform labor, and I pay him. Now, when I perform a task to the people of Guyana, the people of Guyana have to pay me. I'm not providing them a labor. I'm working. Whether the government get the money from the taxes, from donation from the U.S., from loans, from wherever they get the money from, that is the government policy. My thing is that once a Guyanese, especially those in the public sector, they work, they have to be paid. They must be paid. So it is unfair to say, how it come across like if they're doing us a favor, I paying you, and the public and the taxpayers paying you. No. We are providing a service, and the government in return, by extension, the people of Guyana, have to pay the public servants and the military. That's my first point. The second thing I want to raise, yesterday, a comment was made that the Chief Justice rebuked the Attorney General. But I listened to the entire case management, and I didn't see that. What I saw, the guy with the lawyer with the Attorney General raised a point or make an application, and a respondent lawyer, another lawyer in the case from another respondent made a comment that the Attorney General, you have to choose which side you want. Choose which side you want. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then there was the attempt to be the cross when the judge put them that I'm in charge of this court. Then the judge said, and I believe the judge entertained the application because she then asked the GCOM lawyer or the chairwoman lawyer, which is Ms. Kim Kite, what do you say to this? And the woman said it has always been prudent by the chairwoman that once a case is going on, one is a court case, she don't do anything, right? She waits until the court finished. And the Chief Justice said, well, there you have it. So she didn't have no reason to rule on that issue. She take the word of the GCOM liar. So I didn't hear no rebuke from the judge telling the chief judge, telling the attorney general, which you have to choose which side you on and all these things. Secondly, the names that you guys are putting over there from the with the sanction, starting with the president come down. I listened to the press conference by Sarah this morning, and throughout the press conference, including the questions that was asked of her, she all out and she maintained that we have not named no names, we didn't publish any names, we didn't give nobody no names, and we didn't inform the individuals, we didn't inform the government. They will know when they book a flight, or if the visa is if they have to apply for one, or if they have one, when they book flight they will know. That's what the woman said this morning. So I hear yesterday and today, there are set of names, BK and Sarah and Simona Brooms and all these things. So my question would be, if the ambassador didn't give these, and certainly Mike Pompeo announced it, yes, he didn't give no names either. So I would like to know where you guys get those names from.
All right.
I will admit if you say you are speculating and you suspect these are the names, but you cannot say that those are the names coming out from the embassy.
All right. Could we answer you off here? Could we answer you off here?
That's just right. So also this morning, my final point is that this morning I saw Mr. Joe make a statement or devote a long statement, and two phrases stand out for me in the long statement that he gave. One phrase he said, "We will not bend." He said it if it is there in public domain. He said one phrase. He said, "We will not bend." There's another phrase which he said, "We will stand firm." And I was listening to an analyst last night who said that when sanctions start and sanctions get deep, the U.S. being such a powerful economy, a powerful world power, that 90% of the trades, whether you're doing trade with Guyana and China, Guyana and CARICOM, or Guyana and these other countries, the fact is the war is set up in such a way that the money, 90% of the trade money pass through the U.S. So when U.S. is against you, like when they stop, like everything shut down. So I say that to say this. When the U.S. start to squeeze Guyana, right? Those who are celebrating and are clapping for the sanctions now, those who are happy and those who are celebrating and those who are happy, I believe it will come a time when those same people will regret that they encouraged the U.S. and other countries to come down and squeeze and punish a small country like Guyana. Because I have nothing to say, despite what is coalition, what is happening with this election process, I will never encourage no other country to come into my country and interfere and to do this. It's like you invite a neighbor to come in your house and offer run your own house. I, as a man, will never encourage that. Right? So I am not. Those Guyanese who are championing these, despite what we history, we know what we went through with this colonization of foreign powers. I traveled the whole Caribbean, and I have seen how people talk about Guyanese. I have seen how some people disrespect Guyanese, even though I know Guyanese is probably the smartest and brightest people in the world, and we're so talented. Yet, Guyanese people are encouraging foreigners to take advantage on their fellow Guyanese. Today, we will be happy. Today, we will celebrate. I believe it will come a time because if those people get through, whichever government get through, those foreigners, these world powers, you know, they will say, when they start to squeeze and take a stranglehold of Guyana, like the way they fetch out the oh my gold and all these different things, they will say, you don't shoot like, you don't shout up. We get you in here. We put you here. That is what is going to happen. And they're going to use their influences, the influence, because this has nothing to do with coalition and PVP. It has absolutely nothing to do with it. It has all to do with their hire. They want an opportunity to sanction or to take advantage of all the hires that is there, that they know that we do not have the capacity in terms of population, in terms of technology, in terms of resources to deal with that hire. And
all right.
Guyana catch themselves, by the time Ghana catch themselves, the people's going to cry real because you know why? We have allowed the foreign influence to take advantage. This is all about this by the whole world jumping down because I believe they believe.
All right, caller.
that
I think
Granger
yes. I think
and
we're
Granger
gonna answer you off.
administration-
We're gonna answer you off here. Thank you very
Oh.
much. Thank you very much for that. We're coming down to time, and I thank you there. But let me make a couple of points before I hand it over there to Dr. Yog Mahadeo to make his comments and then closing comments. The first thing is. With regards to the comments that were made yesterday, yes, I do acknowledge that there was something there. I think I would have got it mixed up. I thank you very much for that. And Yog, there are a couple of things that he would have said there with regards to, I'm not sure who asked the U.S. to put sanctions on the people of Guyana and whether there's anybody who's celebrating. What I do know is that it's 135 plus days since the March the 2nd elections, and it is unacceptable in any part of the world that you would have this thing dragging on and on and on. And so I'd want to ask you to step in here and maybe answer some of the things that he said.
Well, Leonard, firstly, the caller did not want to comment on the political situation.
No.
Maybe he's not aggrieved by having an election that cannot be declared after 135 days. I don't know. But I can tell you this. He said that he opposes anybody to come into our business. Sir, there's a difference between legitimacy of a state and sovereignty. And you know, while he was talking, one of our viewers sent in the following. Let me share it with you, Leonard, with all our viewers there. If you live in a community and your neighbor beats up his spouse, beats up his wife and children and torture them, and you become aware that that is happening, do you stay quiet? Or do you try to get help to them? Do you stay quiet and do not condemn what they're doing to the people in their house? Well, it means that you're part of the problem then. You know, human rights is human rights. And I mean, we have an unassailable right to our vote and an unassailable right to have those votes counted and the franchise being respected. I don't care who is in power. I don't care whether it's Barrett Jagdeo or whether it's Irfan Ali or whether it's David Granger or Joe Harmon or anybody. What I care about is my vote must count. And whoever it is that is going to do whatever it takes to not make my vote count, I'm going to oppose them. I spoke out against corruption in the past. Kaiser News did the same, and we continue to speak out against it. So it's okay to have spoken out against the past, but it's not okay now. That seems to be some of the things that's happening. In addition to the point about about who's paying and who's not paying, I hold to my point. I believe, you know, to that caller, I'd like to say, so if somebody steals money, why do we have anti-money laundering law then? If somebody steals money and they take it to the bank will say, it's your money, I don't have to question you where you get it from. So if people steal from the public purse to fill their pockets, there are people who, their contracts, Leonard, you mentioned one the other day, a man win a contract for $10 and the government decide to pay him $300,000. We mustn't question it. We mustn't question whose money it is, because that is an abuse of public funds. How does a government, and a government needs to realize where its money is coming from. If you are going to abuse public funds, you're abusing the people who you tax to get that money. I'm not attacking the workers, I'm attacking the people, the paymasters who are abusing the money. They should probably pay the workers at the city council some more. They should pay the teachers some more. They should pay the policemen some more, rather than do what they're doing with the money. Presently, we have a situation where people across this country doesn't have a meal to eat. But you have people who should, I don't disrespect the maid or the domestic workers for Mr. Nagamutu. I don't disrespect them at all. I love them. I value them. But for me, what is more important? Does Mr. Nagamutu incentives to his job is more important than 10 kids getting meals or not meals in the country? I mean, it's all about discussion. It's how you see it. And yes, I mean, Rita Dipton, you're right. That's what's called gaslighting. It's making, dissonance, cognitive dissonance is what we have in this country. Accept the reality. The reality is that this government has stolen power since March 2nd. Nothing can change that. And nothing will change that unless they need to respect the will of the people. I don't care what party you support. The will of the electorate has to be respected, Leonard. And you have situation in other countries, and they have a right. You have Guyanese living in Barbados illegally, Guyanese living in Barbados legally and sending money here. The government of Barbados has to maintain them for social services and everything else. And none of the Caribbean countries must have a word to say about Guyana. But we had a lot of words to say about apartheid. We had a lot of words to say about Venezuela. We had words to say about Cuba. We had words to say about other people, about Haiti. But they mustn't say anything about us. That is unacceptable.
Thank you very much. And there's two other points that I would want to raise with regards to the caller. We like debates like this. The thing is, even if the U.S. Embassy did not say this morning who the persons are, as a good newspaper, as what we know, this is our business. This is what we do for news. And it means that if the front door is closed, there's a back door and there's side windows, many ways to get stories. And so you have sources. That's why you have sources. You have people around the places, and they would be able to tell you what is happening. So we might not necessarily have to ask the U.S. Embassy here. You have the State Department. You have so many other places that you could ask. I don't say any more with that. The second thing is, if it is that our people, our politicians, our representative don't need us, why is it that they come every 5 years knocking on our doors, asking us to vote? So who's the most important man, you or me? The second thing is, the gentleman did talk about taxes and everything. That is where you got it wrong, sir. The simple reason, when I pay my taxes, I want to see it spent right. I don't want to see a $300,000 or a $3 million project that is worth $3 million. You pay $10 million for it. I don't want to see a Jeep or a truck that the GPL could buy for $30 or $40 million being given to the GPL, to 8 of them, in fact, for $64 million or for $84 million. So get it right. We need to have our money and the way that it's spent to be accounted for, every cent of it, and have a right to ask. And the people got a right to ask through the newspaper, through the radio. So thank you very much. I saw what you did there, sir, and we paying attention. So while you might be looking at that, you should also be paying attention to 135 days since the elections would have been held, and when you have everybody in the world that is saying that you're wrong and you're saying that everybody in the world is wrong, you should find out who is wrong in the entire process. So we have
cognitive dissonance, Leonard, when we choose to divorce ourselves from reality and we believe everybody in the world has a problem with us, not realizing the problem is with us. Look, for during the Burnham days, there are persons who swear and who continues to hold on to the fact that Burnham never rigged an election. And that's that is something that is amazing sometimes when you look at this. You look and let me tell you something. You have persons who are in the elections commission. You have persons who are in the elections commission that have sworn to follow the laws of another country. Let's talk sovereignty then. Let's talk about who cares for Guyana then. I don't have dual citizenship, but you have people who are purporting to hold this nation to their bosom. Only this nation, but they are dual citizens. They have sworn to uphold the laws of another country. And the country they have sworn to uphold the laws must shut up and not talk about matters in Guyana. That is, Leonard, that is hypocrisy.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that.
Rahim, one of my brothers and sisters have advised me, means the merciful.
Yes, I saw that. Thank you very much, Zir. So take your head out of the sand where it's buried from. And there's not one source that a good newspaper would use. There's several sources that you would use to develop a story. It comes par for the course. It is what the terrain says. So we necessarily, if the U.S. Embassy closes that door here, we could ask the State Department. We have sources many ways. So thank you very much, dear. That has been the wrap with elections and COVID-19 watch here. The U.S. Embassy today did not say who those persons are that has been handed visa restrictions, but we have been able to develop some names. And as we get more details, we are going to bring it to you. Thank you for joining us. We can be back in room 592 at 7:30 p.m. sharp this evening. Dr. Yog Mahadeo leading the way. Two former U.S. State Department officials, or at least one of them, they're going to be there to tell you what it all means, visa revocations and sanctions. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us on this beautiful day. It is a beautiful day from wherever you are, in Guyana, out of Guyana. Do have a pleasant rest of the day until we meet again.
Win $100,000 monthly with Sleepy sanitary pads. Sleepy sanitary pads are all natural and are made with cotton and bamboo fibers. It is dye and lotion free, hence no irritations or rashes. Sleepy sanitary pads are available in 2 sizes, ultra thin and thick. It is affordable and available nationwide. See press for details. Visit our Sleepy South America Facebook page or call us on 233-2473.
Kite Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kite Radio.